Well, hello, everyone. Let's go ahead and get started. This is Estate Planning Part 2. Before we get started with the main presentation, let's go over a few housekeeping items. All participants will be in listen-only mode. There's a lot of heavy content tonight, but we want you to sit back and relax. That's why this webinar is being recorded. The replay will be sent to you in 1 to 2 days. Our main speaker, Frank Patelco, will present for about 30 minutes, after which we will begin the Q&A session. You are encouraged to type in your questions in the Q&A session as you think of them and any time during the presentation. Please use the Q&A instead of chat, just so we can keep an eye on those important questions. So 2 weeks ago, we hosted a webinar titled Estate Planning Part 1, The Basics. We learned a lot about wills, trust, powers of attorney, and many, many other things. You can find the replay of Part 1 on our website at patelco.org on our Financial Wellness tab. Tonight, though, we have Estate Planning 2, which is a deep dive on having that honest conversation with your loved ones about your wishes. We're going to explore identifying caretakers for loved ones, creating and storing important documents, selecting decision makers, setting up account access. Our partner for tonight's webinar is Equitable. We work very closely with Equitable, and tonight they have brought us some very unique content for this webinar. Let me read our speaker's bio, Frank Patelco. Frank has 22 years in the industry, 18 of them all with Equitable. He grew up in New Jersey, one of 4 children. His parents were both inner city school teachers. And we have his bucket list here, which I've known Frank for a long time, and I didn't know this about him. He would like to drive on the Autobahn, attend the Super Bowl with the Giants playing. Good luck on that one, Frank. And bring his 2 daughters to see all 62 national parks. That's wonderful. I really like that last one especially. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Frank to start the presentation. Frank?
Well, Carolyn, thank you very much for having me. And I think that after that Monday night football game against the Cowboys, I don't know if we're really going to see the Giants play in the Super Bowl. We can always keep our fingers crossed. We'll be there one day, hopefully. And congratulations to all the Niner fans or Raider fans out there. They're doing great this year. So as Carolyn said, my name is Frank Patelco. I'm the insurance specialist. I work with Patelco. It's a great organization, great credit union. I've had a chance to meet lots of the members over the last 15 years that I've worked with Patelco advisors. And I have to say, the quality of excellence is really top notch at this organization. So I truly do like working with the advisors and the members that partake in the credit union. The Share Your Love Family Discussion Guide is something that's very near and dear to my heart, because I want to start by saying, even though I am not a financial estate planner, this presentation is one of my favorites because it goes over so many of the important topics that people need to know when doing estate planning. And what I really want to have everyone take away from this presentation is that I hope it starts the conversation. If you don't have a financial plan, or if you don't have an estate plan, and when I give these presentations live in front of people, I ask everyone, raise your hand if you have an estate plan or if you have a financial plan. Half the hands go up, half the hands stay down. And I always think that the most important thing is to be prepared. And a lot of people don't have those financial plans or don't have those estate plans because it's tough. It's a tough conversation to have. It's hard to start those conversations. People are overwhelmed. They don't know where to start, and they push it off to the end of the day. But I will say this. I have one of these family discussion brochures. This is mine. It's all filled out. I keep it in my safe. It's about a couple pages long. And the reason why I have one of these brochures, and here's the most important thing. The reason why I have one of these brochures filled out and it's in my safe is because if anything happens to me, one night I don't come home from work, at a time of grief, my wife knows that she can go into the safe, she could take out the Share Your Love brochure, and she knows exactly where all of our finances are. It's a blueprint. It's a step-by-step guide that will help you make really hard decisions in a tough time. But most importantly, it gives us peace of mind. It gives my wife peace of mind that she can be able to take care of our two daughters, Carly, who's 7 years old, and Reagan, who's 4 years old. But also it gives her peace of mind that she knows that we're prepared. So this is why it's my favorite presentation. It's something that's really near and dear to my heart. So we're going to talk about a couple of things today. We're going to talk about the importance of estate planning. I'm going to go over a couple bullet points on that. We're going to talk about the Share Your Love Family Discussion Guide. It's something that I really want everyone to have a copy of. And here's how I'm going to propose this. You can go into your local Patelco branch, speak to a financial advisor and ask for one of these booklets, or we can send you, I think there's a link online we can go to, or we can send you a PDF version, however you feel like doing it. And then also, third thing is we're going to talk about what happens after the completion of filling out this document. Where do you put it? Where do you store it? Where do you keep it? We'll talk about that as well. So first of all, what is the importance of estate planning? Why do we even really need a plan? I'm young. I don't need an estate plan. Everything's good in my life. Maybe you don't have enough assets where you think a plan is needed. Why would I need an estate plan? I don't have enough money to really even plan for that. Well, it comes down to controlling and distributing your assets. There are so many people out there that have worked their whole lives, and they want to be able to pass assets on from one generation to another, and they want to pass it on the way they want it to be passed on. Another thing is preparing ahead of time. And this is something that is really near and dear to my heart because, a couple of months ago, we got some bad news. My father, who's 75 years old, was diagnosed with ALS. And it really hit our family pretty hard. We thought we had everything in line. My father's 75 years old. He's ready for the last, they call it the final decade. A lot of doctors out there call it the final decade. And a lot of people never know when that final decade is going to come. People in their 90s say, okay, this is my final decade. People in their 80s with bad health might say, this is my final decade. But to have your final decade come so young in life at 75 really shook up our family a little bit. And it made us think, it made us start to plan. So the reason that you have a good estate plan is because you never know what's going to happen. You want to be able to add protection to your family in a time of need. You don't want your loved ones to have to worry. There's two more most important things about estate planning that we'll talk about. The first one is the completion of the important documents, and that's the will, the estate. We'll talk about all that later on in the presentation. But if you don't know where to begin, and you don't know what questions to ask a financial planner or an estate planner, this is why you fill out the Share Your Love brochure. Because while you're going through that Share Your Love brochure with a loved one, it's going to spark questions that you might want to write down. It's going to get you to think about where important documents are, or where do you keep passwords or codes, or do you have a plan? Do you have a monthly budget? And if anything would happen to you, would you have a monthly budget and people to help you with that monthly budget? And it's all incorporated in the Share Your Love document. So when we go through that document, there's going to be a couple of really good pieces that I really want you to think about, point out in your mind and use, because this is the foundation that you're going to use, that when you go to an estate planner or a financial planner, you'll be well prepared to ask them a lot of really good quality questions.
Frank,
So how many people out there remember the Prince story about when Prince passed away back in 2016? He did not have an estate plan. He had a $300 million estate, and it created a lot of conflict between his family. They went through a decade of legal fights and battles. They had to facilitate the distribution of those assets. They didn't know how to do it. It was tied up in the courts for a long time. It went through probate. In addition to that, and this is my favorite part of it, an inmate came out of nowhere and said, I'm Prince's legal heir. And they had to do a test on him, genetic testing. They had to go through the whole process. But from that, it took about a decade to get everything straightened out. They lost millions of dollars in litigation fees in the courts. And that could have all been avoided, right? When you do a proper estate plan, you can avoid family conflicts. For example, how many people out there where someone has passed away in your family, and next thing you know, brothers and sisters are fighting over assets? Right? I mean, that's in a tough time when a loved one passes away, to have two family members fight over assets. That's tough, right? So we want to avoid all that. We want to avoid the family conflict. We want to avoid legal fees. We want to have a good plan put in place. so that it's a smooth transition from one generation to another. So the Share Your Love Family Discussion Guide is going to provide you with a couple of things. First of all, it's going to start that conversation. We want to provide confidence that your assets will be distributed according to your wishes. These are your assets. And to be honest, it should be how you want to pass on your assets. But also, it's going to promote honest and productive conversations with your loved ones. When you start the Share Your Love brochure, it's going to open up a whole bunch of conversations. And when you go to see a financial advisor and estate planner, one of the things that I like to do is make sure at some point in the conversation, you bring your beneficiaries to meet your financial advisors so that you can talk about a plan, you can talk about financial planning and estate planning, and you can have those conversations with your loved ones. And then also, you want to ensure your loved ones that you know your wishes are carried out and that your assets are going to be passed along in the way that you want them to be passed along that's going to best suit your family. And the best part about the Share Your Love brochure and best part about estate planning is everyone is completely different. You get to customize this in any way that you seem fit because they are your assets. You want to make sure that your assets are passed on the way you want them to be passed on. Most important thing, right? We want to be able to put our mind at ease. Put our mind at ease, right? I never forget this presentation that I did years ago before COVID. I usually do this end of the year presentation for a financial advisor that I've worked with for years. And he had 100 clients at the seminar. And we were going over the Share Your Love brochure. We were talking about stories and planning. We were really getting into it. And at the end of the presentation, he brought about 5 or 6 different clients that talked about their personal experiences of working with this financial advisor over time. And one of the clients that got up there was this little 85-year-old woman. She gets up there and she said, Leon, he's a fine man. I worked with him when I was single and we got married and he helped us plan to buy our first house and he was there for me when my kids went to college. He was even there for me when my husband passed away. And my husband said, if anything ever happens to me, go into the living room, open up the drawer of the cabinet and take all the documents to Leon and he'll know exactly what to do. And it was out of there. So her husband passed away and she takes the drawer and I'll never forget this. She said, I went to Leon with the actual drawer in the desk and put it on his desk and there were piles of papers, all kinds of information in there. And it took him 2 months to go through all that information. And that is where you want to be really organized with your finances and you want to be really organized with the plan. Not having a plan in place at that time when her husband passed away created stress. You want to put your mind at ease and lessen the burden for your loved ones, right? Having that discussion, writing down your plan with your loved ones, ensuring that nothing is unknown, right? Save loved ones the time from searching for important documents. And finally, ensure that your wishes are carried out the way you want them to be carried out. So the content of this Share Your Love brochure is broken up into 4 sections. The first section is the key contacts and advisors. The middle section is the financial information and assets. The third section is important documents. And this third section, I think, is one of the most important sections. I'm going to talk about why. And then the fourth section is the ethical will and the family history. I do have a PDF that we're going to go over afterwards that will show you how this brochure is broken down. But in the meantime, let's talk about the 4 important sections and what you're going to encounter in each one and how you should go after filling it out. Now, I understand that this can be kind of intimidating. It's a big brochure and there's a lot of pieces, but rest assured, the brochure, every page in the brochure does not pertain to everyone. For example, inside of the brochure, there's a section on veteran benefits. And if you're not a veteran, you just wouldn't fill that out. So I make the joke, my wife and I, we filled out our brochure. It took us a couple weeks. It took us a couple bottles of wine. Every night on the weekends, we'd open up a bottle of wine and pour a glass and sit down and we'd go through the brochure and fill out a page or two and then we put it down. Then the next night, maybe we'd open it up and fill out a couple other pages. And when we did it slowly, instead of doing it all at once, it gave us time to digest. It gave us time to think about if we were missing anything or if anything that we wanted to incorporate. So the first section is the key contacts, financial advisors, doctors, access codes, right? Who's important to you? The first page is all your important people. If something should happen to me, my wife goes into the safe, she pulls out our family, our Share Your Love brochure, she opens it up to page 1, and guess who's there? My financial advisor, my life insurance, and my closest family members. That's who's there for mine. She knows exactly who to get in touch with to free up assets, to help pay the bills, to claim life insurance policies, and to alert our families if there's anyone else that she needs. Key contacts, and very important people that you want to contact in the time of death. Here's another thing too. My wife and I, if something should happen together, my brother is our financial fiduciary and also the power of attorney over our daughters, be able to look over our daughters if anything happens. He knows that if anything happens to us together, he goes into that safe, he pulls out that brochure, and he knows exactly who to talk to, right? Key contacts are there. Also medical, right? Pharmacies, medical people, doctors, any kind of information. The fourth one is what I think the most important, the digital assets and passwords. If anything should happen to me, my wife knows exactly all the passwords. She knows the passwords to our bank account, our brokerage account. She could pay bills online if she needs to. In addition to that, how can she go without Netflix or Disney Plus? We keep all those passwords on there as well. Netflix, Disney Plus, American Express for points, or any other kind of information. And these passwords change all the time. It seems like every 60 to 90 days, we're changing passwords. So what I recommend is 2 things. If you're going to do a digital copy, which I recommend, you can keep it on your desktop, fill it out online, fill it out, print up a copy of it, store it in a safe or a safe place, wherever you prefer. If you're going to handwrite it, I would handwrite the digital passwords in pencil so you can always erase them and refill them out later on down the road. I think it's going to save a lot of time. The next page is financial information and assets. And I think this is the most important thing. The average person in Northern California that's in the tech world changes jobs every 2.5 years. Everyone has 401ks out there. If you're in your home right now, raise your hand if you have a 401k at a previous employer and you've never consolidated. Think about that. Think about how many retirement accounts we've left at previous employers that are not consolidated. If anything should happen to you, do you have one place where all of your accounts are listed? We don't want anything to be left behind, right? We have bank accounts, we have benefits, we have debts that are owned. Social Security, underneath that, personal property and real estate. We have a lot of members out there that have homes and also have rental properties. We have to make sure those are listed. We can list any kind of our liabilities, mortgages, home loans, credit card loans, student loans. These are all listed, and there's a spot to list everything inside of the Share Your Love brochure. Before I was talking about insurance benefits and being in the insurance world, we see this all the time. See it all the time. Story from a couple of years ago when I was doing one of these presentations. Afterwards, I gave the presentation and we did a question and answer. And a woman stood up and she said, my mom had cancer, and it was tough on our family. For years, it was hard. It was a tough battle. We eventually had to put her in a nursing home, and she had passed. And when she had passed, we went through all of her material, and we found keys to a safety deposit box. And we went to the bank, went into the safety deposit box, and what we found in there was disability. She had disability insurance, and we never claimed it. And it went bad. And in a time when we could have used that to cover nursing home expenses, it was about $150,000 worth of disability and life insurance that we could have claimed that we never did. So the most important thing is that her husband wanted to keep those documents safe. And the safest place that he could think of to keep those documents safe was the safety deposit box in the bank. But no one knew about it. No one even knew about the safety deposit box until they found the keys and they found the information years and years later. So to me, when you fill out your brochure, not only is it important to list the kinds of policies that you have with the policy numbers, but you also want to list where the documents are located. So when I went through my Share Your Love brochure with my wife, we listed all of our policies, the disability policy, the life insurance policy, any policies that we had. And we also had a filing cabinet in our living room, and we filed all of the documents so that if anything happened, they take out that Share Your Love brochure. And what they do is they open up to the insurance policy information, and it says life insurance policy in the filing cabinet, disability policy in the filing cabinet. And it's a great way to just keep everything organized. Okay. In addition to that, documents and important information. We have a lot of different types of documents in our family that we want to keep safe. We talk about the estate plan, which is the will, the power of attorney. Okay. Underneath that, we have any kind of accounts, deeds, or titles to property, family forms. We have in our family, what I do is in our safe, I keep a folder, a little plastic envelope for every single person. I label it. This planning process really taught me a lot to just be organized. So everyone has a little envelope. It's in the safe. I have one: birth certificate, marriage certificate, social security card, any additional papers. When I did my daughters, something that was unique was when my daughters were born a couple years ago, we were able to do cord blood. And I tell this story because cord blood is when your daughter or child is born and they're able to save the stem cells. So what I did was I put the certification with their birth certificate in their social security cards. So we know that down the road, that's something that you might not check on an annual basis, but it's good to know that they have that. They have those stem cells. So down the road, when they're 50, 60, 70 years old, there might be a use for those. In addition, we keep business documents and tax returns in that filing cabinet that I have. I keep all of our business documents and all of our tax returns in a place that's safe. And the monthly budget to me is the most important thing. I don't know many couples that do a monthly budget together. It's usually the husband or the wife that takes care of it. There's not many people or families that do it together. If you do it together, congratulations, because I think that you should do it together. That way, both people know what the budgets are and how to pay bills. So in our family, a monthly budget's important, and we keep a list of all the bills that we pay, all the fixed bills, and where to pay those bills. So there's certain bills that we could pay online, and there's also bills that we have to pay by check or by credit card. And it's good to be organized, and you can do that within the Share Your Love brochure. So estate planning. Estate planning has a couple of different documents that are all listed into estate planning. The most important document is the will, the personal property disposal list, the living will, the medical power of attorney, the durable general power of attorney, and then the ethical will. We're going to go over those real quick. And once again, I just wanted to disclose that we are not estate planners over here at Equitable. If you have any further details or questions on this, please see an estate planner or talk to your financial advisor. They can definitely help you. But what is a will? A will is basically a document that designates your executor and how you want assets to be distributed if anything should pass to you. I remember when we had our first daughter, Carly, about 7 years ago, and we just had her. It was probably about a year out, and we finally decided to take our first vacation alone. The wife and I, we wanted to leave Carly at home with the grandparents and take our first vacation. And my wife said, "I'm not getting on a plane at all without a will. If anything should happen to us, who's going to take care of Carly?" And that was the biggest thing for her. So to me, we did it because it guarantees that your wishes are carried out regardless. It minimizes family conflicts. It provides guardians for minor children. It avoids lengthy probate, minimizes state tax, and makes gifts and donations upon your death. The next page is the personal property list. And this is where you might have those items in your family that are important to you. Family heirlooms, watches, paintings, maybe an old wedding dress. I always crack the joke. Every year around Christmas time, we head back to the East Coast to see my parents back in New Jersey. And my mom takes out the Christmas china, and she's proud of this Christmas china. She's been collecting it for about 40 years. And she says, "Frank, one day," she goes, "you and your brothers and sisters are going to split the Christmas china." And it's a joke in our family. It's important to her. And I think that there are things in your family that are important to you, and they should be passed on. to the people that you love and you want them passed on to. And this is just a description of what a personal property list should look like. It's a description of the asset, the location, where do you keep it? You can even have a photo of it, what it appraises for, and the person that's going to be receiving that piece of property. And once again, I think that the most important thing about the personal property list is that you want to avoid the family conflict. Because when mom and dad pass away down the road, or aunts and uncles, children tend to fight and beneficiaries fight over assets that they want. And if they're not documented, right, that you can easily avoid the family conflict by documenting what goes where and to who. Now, keep in mind, when you do your personal property list in your Share Your Love brochure, that is not a legal document. It's not a legal document. So if you want it to be legal and in stone of what goes where and to who, you have to do a personal property list inside an estate plan. Next is the living will, right? It's a written statement expressing your desires around medical treatment if you are no longer able to express consent. There's so many people out there that fall ill. This would be in attest to any kind of people that have ventilators or can't take care of themselves. If you fall ill, you should go the way you want to go. And that's why we do the living will. Next, we do the medical power of attorney. Grants someone power to make medical decisions regarding medical treatment if you are no longer able for formal consent. So when I did my trust, my wife is my medical power of attorney. I'm her medical power of attorney. If something happens to both of us, I put my brother on as our medical power of attorney. In addition to that, you have your durable power of attorney, right? Which is the durable power of attorney gives authority to a trusted friend or relative to manage assets if you are no longer able to do so. I have a separate person that manages the durable power of attorney for assets, and that is my financial advisor, who happens to be my cousin Chris, because I feel like financially, I want someone looking over my assets. I want someone looking over my own personal best interest medically. And then I also want someone looking over my children, and I have someone different for that. And then finally, you can also do arrangements, right? Planning and consideration. When you do your estate plan, it's organ donations, it's funeral homes, cemeteries. And there's a whole bunch of lists of things that you can involve in the plan. The reason why I like the Share Your Love brochure is because you don't want to go into an estate planner or financial advisor's office and have to think about it now. You want to be prepared. And when you're prepared by filling out the plan, it really does help to have ideas before you meet with a professional about it. Ethical, will, and family history. This is how you want to be remembered at the end of the day. And the thing that I love about our brochure is that when you open it up to the back, you have a little mission statement. You can write something to your family, something along the lines of, my wife and I wrote something in there just in case anything happened to us, of you've given us so much joy throughout our lives, and we love you so much, and we hope that these assets can propel you into the future and give you a good start down the road, and that we'll always love you. So I always feel that this is where you can put something of meaning and give it a personal touch instead of just passing on assets from one generation to another. Okay, after completion, this is the most important thing. Where do you put the brochure? Where do you keep it? You don't just throw it in the desk drawer and never touch it and never tell anyone. You have to tell someone where this is. You have to tell a loved one where it is. Maybe you give separate copies to people. Right? My brother knows that it's in my safe if anything should happen. He goes over to the safe and opens it up and takes it out. He has the code to that. I trust in my life. Every time I update it, I also email him a copy of the PDF version so he has the most up-to-date version. And keep it locked in a good location, somewhere where you know where it is. It's an important document. It's not a legal binded document, but it's a way for you to keep things in your mind organized so that you have all the information that you need and loved ones can make a decision if anything should happen. So Carolyn, next we're going to go over some of the Share Your Love brochures. Let me pull it up real quick and I'll go through some of the pieces that I really like in the Share Your Love brochure.
Great. I also wanted to make sure everybody knew that we are going to get you a copy of this. We're going to, tomorrow or the next day, you will get a copy of this guide, a link to it, and also the recording of tonight's presentation. So you will get that automatically.
So here's what it looks like. Here's my brochure. I keep mine, I don't know if you can see, I keep mine on paper. But in the screen, it's a brochure and it has a couple pages in the front. It says share your love family discussion guide. It's by Equitable. We copyrighted this. This is our material. As we move through here, a little bit of information on the insurance company. And then as you go through, it's a blueprint rooted in courage, strength, and wisdom. Here it is. Key contact information. You can type in here. You can put a person of importance. You can put the birth date. You can put the current address, right? This is your spouse. These are key contacts. These are phone numbers and access codes of all the different accounts that you might have. As you go through, I'm just going to point out a couple pages that I think are really important. I love this password page. You know, there's so many websites that we're on today. Where do you keep all your user IDs? Where do you keep all your passwords? If you want a copy of the brochure and you're going to do a paper copy, I recommend filling this out in pencil. If you're going to do a PDF version, what I recommend is that you keep it on your computer, but when you're done with it, you print it out and you put it somewhere safe. That way you have it. That way, if anything happens to you, someone doesn't go onto the computer and try to find it in a desktop full of stuff. They know exactly where this is. So print out a copy. And then whenever you have to update a password, just go back into the PDF, update the password, print out a new page, and it's easy. But there's a lot of information, a lot of spaces here for different types of passwords. And then we get down to important numbers. So these are important numbers that you might have. This might be like a driver's license number, a passport number, TSA number, social security number, and then the origin. Remember I said before, you want the location or the origin of the document. Here's your financial and net and advisor information. These are all the important financial people to you. This is your financial professional, your attorney, your CPA, right? Any previous employers that you might have. I like to say HR department, right? Because if anything should happen to you, how you have to have access to your 401k. You know, you can put your 401k distributor in there. As we scroll through here a little bit more, you have your medical doctors, all the important information, your pharmacy, okay, mail-in pharmacy, your assets. One of the most important pages is all the different assets that you have. Stocks. Now, another thing is that if you're working with a financial advisor and they do a financial plan, they're going to have all this information. So sometimes if I'm working with clients that already have a financial plan with a financial advisor, when they scroll up into this area, you could just put see financial advisor. He's going to have all this information anyway. As you scroll down, assets, personal property list, rewards programs. If you have any rewards programs, whether it's American Express or Top Cash Back or Visa, whatever it might be, I'm going to skip ahead to a part that I think is really important. Besides digital assets, safety deposit boxes, storage units, financial responsibilities, which is debts, any kind of credit cards, right here, insurance and other benefits. Ever since that one woman came out in that seminar and told me that story about her mother having cancer and them not being able to claim the disability policy, I do think that this is one of the most important places that you need to fill out, whether you have life insurance, who the carrier is, where the policy number is, and then in addition to that, any other insurance coverages that you might have. Like I said, this is a full service brochure. It runs about, I want to say 30 to 40 pages. Not all of it is going to pertain to you. It could be daunting to fill out all this information, but you're not going to have to. Just go through it once, highlight the sections that you think are important to you, put it down. The next day, come back and fill out one section at a time. Make it easy. You don't have to go back and fill out the whole brochure, and not everything is going to pertain to you as well. So Carolyn, at this time, we could take any questions, Q&As if you have any out there. I'd love to talk to people about the brochure or see what we can do to help them and support them.
Yes, there's some good ones. This one came in right at the beginning of when you were talking. On your first make sure point, should we meet with all the beneficiaries at one time to discuss?
I don't want to sound like I'm not answering this question, but I think this is up to your discretion. I think that it depends on how many beneficiaries you have. I think if you might insult someone by not being felt out. I really do think that this right here is you and your family and how you want assets to be passed on and what you think is in the best interest of your family. And I don't want to seem like I'm not answering the question, but my mom and dad sat us down after my father had ALS and she went over everything with us. And it was a time that we all came together. We got good information and we were able to pull together as a family, and it was just a good time for us. So she pulled us all together, but I'm not sure if everyone would do that.
Yeah, and I agree. There's different people that can hear these messages in different ways. So you have to know the people that you're going to communicate with and how they will take the information. It can be very serious information. Let's see. Might there be a monthly budget template or spreadsheet you can share also? Is a sample in the brochure or was just something we can add? I don't think there is one in there, but
yeah, we put one in there. It's a monthly budget. It's really simple. It's really, really simple. It just gives you the vendors that you're spending money on, and then you put a dollar amount in. So a budget is it's just a family budget and a plan. So you put in all your fixed expenses. For my budget, I put in the top that we had were the mortgage, the PG&E, the water bill, and then there's a couple of other ones that we fit in there, car payments. And then in the bottom, I built in a little bit of a budget for a credit card. So how much we spend every month on a credit card. And that's my monthly budget. And my wife knows that if anything should happen to me, these are the main bills that we have to pay every single month. And then in addition to that, who's paying those bills? So my mortgage is done online. We pay that online bill pay. Same with PG&E, same with the water, same with the cars. But the Verizon for our phones, we pay that through American Express. It's automatically hooked up. So she knows that she doesn't have to pay the Verizon bill for the phones, but she knows she does have to pay the American Express bill because that's where that bill is coming out of. So that's a good question.
also at Patelco, from time to time, we have webinars on how to make a budget. So you can see those in your in our website. So let's see, here's another one. What did he say about personal property not being a legal document?
Okay, so the Share Your Love brochure is not a legal document. It's not notarized. So it won't hold up in court. If you fill that out and a loved one brings it into court and says, Mom and Dad said that this is ours, it's written right here. Well, that doesn't hold up in a court of law unless it's notarized like an estate plan. An estate plan is notarized. And then that's avoiding probate. So.
Okay, we did have another question earlier, though. If somebody just got it notarized, would it be legal? And I would say you need to talk to an estate planning attorney about that to make sure. Okay. Let's see. I have a previous will in another state. We may not be able to answer this one. Is it still in force in California, or is it void because I reside in California? Do I need to create a new will in California? My answer to that is you need to probably see an estate planning attorney in California just to make sure it's up to date. That would be my recommendation. Let's see. I think the document is how to cancel. There's no safe place to store all of this info. Seems like an identity theft's dream to have all of these passwords in one place. What do you advise there? No safe, no safety deposit box. That's a good one.
Here's what I would say. I would leave a letter somewhere where someone can get to it. For example, if that was my fear, I'd probably have a little envelope and I would say, go to the safety deposit box to see the Share Your Love brochure and leave it in a safe. That's what I would do. Just tuck it away, leave it in a safety deposit box, but make sure that someone knows where that safety deposit box is. Make sure that a beneficiary, that if anything happens to you or your spouse, they absolutely know that they have access to that safety deposit box, because you're going to want to get your hands on that information.
Someone else asked, did you say we can get this brochure at a Patelco branch, or can we only receive it electronically? I'd love to have a copy and fill it out. We did just drop it in the chat. So if you want to take a look at it tonight, there you can have at it. Like Frank said, grab a glass of wine or something with, with someone important to you maybe, and start filling it out little by little. I think one of the biggest pieces for me is, my husband and I, we know all the assets and where they are, but it is the digital stuff. Because when it comes down to the paying the bills and holding all that information, I'm the one that takes care of it. So the digital assets and passwords. And then, like you said tonight, make sure that the document shows the HR department of where you live, or where you work. That is really important, because that will eliminate a lot of phone calls at a particular time. Let's see. These are a lot of legal questions. There was someone that asked how you can find a good financial advisor and how you could find a good estate planning attorney. So 2 weeks ago, as we talked about earlier, we had part 1, and that was estate planning, the basics. Very, very good firm in Oak Crest Law Group. They are based out of Southern California. They are separate from Patelco. But we've had very good experience with them. Our financial advisors have also people that they work with locally. I would also suggest, if you want to work with someone locally, you ask your friends and neighbors, people that you trust that have had good experiences with estate planning attorneys, and they can decide whether you need a will or a trust. But I would strongly suggest that everyone have one of the two. And financial advisors, we're going to talk a little bit about that later, but you can always talk to a financial advisor at Patelco Credit Union. And we have a lot of experienced financial advisors, and we can go through a little bit about what they cover as well. So let's take a 1 or 2 more. Let's see. For points and mileage, do they transfer, and how do they do that? That depends on your credit card, depends on your bank. So, and your, if you're getting miles or whatever from your airlines, it depends on whatever company that is with. So let's see. Let's see. Somebody says, I keep all login and passwords in a password protected Excel file. That is good, as long as somebody knows where that file is and that they know the password and how to get to it. Okay, let's see. I think that there was another question on the chat part that I wanted to cover. Nope, I think that, okay, back to the recording. Yes, this is being recorded. We're going to send you out a link tomorrow or the next day of the entire presentation, and it will have a link in it also to get to the Share Your Love guide. So I think we can probably wrap it up now and move on. Great information, Frank. I mean, just amazing information. You talked several times about how it's near and dear to you. It is to me too. I give this guide to all of my friends, all of my family members. I just think it's so important. So we have, as Frank mentioned throughout the presentation, most people will need advice when investing. You know, there's some professionals that you absolutely have to have in your life: an attorney, a tax advisor, and a financial advisor. and they can work together with you. We have 11 financial advisors available to help you make those decisions. And they can help you with tax-free income, retirement planning, rollovers, financial planning, long-term care, life insurance, wealth transfer. And they're also available to meet with you any way you want to meet. You want to go in person to a branch, that's great. You want to do it over the phone or by Zoom. And our financial advisors actually have an encrypted version of Zoom for your added online protection, which is very important these days. And we will drop a link in the chat to help you locate the financial advisor assigned to your branch. And Luis, our support person, that's doing a fantastic job. Luis, if you could drop in the chat the financial advisor services link, that'd be great. Or you can contact me directly, either by phone or by mail, and I'll get you to the financial advisor in your area. Just if you could, please make sure that you let me know what branch is most convenient for you. Okay, and on the next slide, we have a promotion that I wanted to talk about a little bit. It's simple. Through November 30th, you can get a $100 Amazon e-card when you invest $25,000 or more with us. So click on those links in chat to get an appointment scheduled. And yes, thank you, Luis, he's got that there. And our next webinar, if you can go one more, Frank, is going to be in 2 more weeks, and it's sponsored by Franklin Templeton, and it is tax-free investing. So the higher your tax bracket, the more you will need this webinar. Take a picture of the QR code on the screen if you would like to register for that one. So Frank, did you have any closing comments?
I want to say thank you very much for having me. It was a pleasure talking to all the members. If there's anything that I can help you out, please just defer all the questions over to Carolyn and we'll get those answers for you as soon as possible.
And on behalf of Frank, myself, and the entire Patelco team, thank you for attending tonight's webinar. Check our website and join us for more webinars, the future webinars. And remember, wherever you are in your financial journey, Patelco is here for you. Thank you and enjoy your night. Good night.